Welcome to today's deep dive. I've really been looking forward to this one all week.
Oh yeah, me too.
If you are joining us today, get ready because we are unpacking a stack of sources that is just guaranteed to scramble your brain in the best possible way.
It really is a wild ride.
It is. So we've got our hands on a series of excerpts from this truly bizarre, mind-bending novel titled The Cartography of Unbecoming.
Right. And it's credited to an author named Howard Vanderbilt.
But if you look at the author's notes, that's actually a pseudonym for a writing duo who go by Max and Claude.
Exactly.
And this text, I mean, it sits right at the intersection of cosmic horror, municipal bureaucracy, and underground fungal ecology.
Which is a sentence I never thought I'd hear.
Right.
But it really does defy any standard genre classification. What we have here is a story that operates on this massive, almost incomprehensible scale.
Yeah.
Yet it grounds all of that cosmic dread in the most mundane realities. Paperwork, civic duty, daily routines. It's brilliant, but it is incredibly dense.
Exactly, which is why we are here. Our mission today is to act as your guides through this surreal narrative. We want to extract those profound aha moments about the nature of consciousness, identity, and, well, the terrifying indifference of the universe.
And we're going to do that without letting you get bogged down in all the heavy lore.
Yes. So to give you a taste of the premise, imagine going to the DMV, but instead of just waiting in line for a license plate, the act of filling out a government tax form accidentally awakens a massive collective fungal god beneath your feet.
Which sounds completely absurd.
Totally absurd.
But the way it's written is just chillingly plausible. And setting the stage here is crucial, because this isn't just a monster story.
Yeah.
It's a deeply philosophical exploration. It asks what it really means to be an individual versus being just a component of a massive system. It forces us to question why we tell ourselves this story of consciousness in the first place.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the setting itself, because the city where this takes place is practically a character. It's called Vorrh-Kallos. From the excerpts, this is a city that literally defies geography. Cartographers have apparently spent 3 centuries trying to map it, but it's impossible. We get this one detail that the streets actually measure 17% longer on Tuesdays than they do on Fridays.
Right, and buildings that face east in the morning might face a completely unrecognizable courtyard by the afternoon. The physical space is fluid.
Which is just so eerie.
It is. And the reason for this impossible architecture is what lies beneath it. Powering Vorrh-Kallos is a vast, ancient, underground fungal infrastructure.
The Mycological Authority.
Exactly. The city's Mycological Authority supposedly domesticated its growth centuries ago. It processes the city's waste, it provides this eerie bioluminescent lighting for the streets, and it pulses with a biological rhythm.
But it's not just a utility.
No, not at all. The substrate goes down for miles. It's far older and far larger than the humans living on top of it.
So the city is built on this sleeping biological giant, and here is where the bureaucracy comes in. We are introduced to a character named Marisol Thane. She works for the Central Bureau of Enumeration, and she's been given a highly specific, highly dangerous task. She has to conduct a census in a place called District Null.
And District Null is a complete bureaucratic paradox.
Oh, 100%.
It's a part of the city that officially does not exist on any map. But the Bureau needs to document its residents for what they call ontological verification.
I love that phrase.
It's so good. They essentially need to prove these entities exist so they can figure out if they owe back taxes.
Which is just peak bureaucracy, risking your sanity for back taxes.
And Marisol isn't just taking a clipboard down there. She's armed with this bizarre piece of equipment called the Standard Instrument for Population Verification.
That device is such a great detail.
It really is.
It's described as this heavy, absurd brass contraption full of dials and lenses. It gives you this steampunk, almost retro-futuristic vibe, highlighting how humans try to use physical, mechanical tools to measure things that completely defy measurement. Because her journey into District Null is genuinely terrifying. It's a place defined by an absolute fundamental darkness. She knocks on a door that the text says becomes permeable, and she conducts an interview in the pitch black.
And she doesn't meet a person.
No, she meets a presence. The name that magically settles into her mind for the ledger is Tenebroth. And when she asks for its age, she gets the distinct impression that it is pre-civic.
Meaning it existed before the city, before the fungus, before the concept of society itself. Its occupation is listed as transitional maintenance.
And she does this 37 times. documenting 17,000 impossible entities with names like the 17 articulations of deeper stillness.
But this is where we need to pause because there's a massive philosophical twist in what Marisol is actually doing here.
Yes, let's get into this.
The census she is conducting is not recording a population. It is incubating it.
Wait, hold on. What do you mean incubating? How does filling out a census form create reality?
It's a brilliant commentary on how systems work. District Null is a realm of formless darkness. It has no structure. But the bureaucratic act of measuring it, of assigning these impossible entities a name, an age, and an occupation and a rigid ledger, gives them administrative reality.
Oh, wow.
By counting them, Marisol's census creates the structured pathways that allow District Null to finally interact with the physical world. The act of measurement changes the thing being measured.
That is wild.
Think about how that relates to our world today with algorithms.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
If a social media algorithm measures your engagement with, say, angry or polarizing content, it starts feeding you more of it. Over time, that algorithmic measurement actually shapes your mood, your worldview, and your personality.
You become the thing the system measured.
Precisely. Marisol's census does that, but on a cosmic scale. It gives the darkness a shape, so it can merge with the city's fungal substrate.
So by simply doing her administrative job, she's plugging this ancient, formless darkness directly into the biological network of the city. So what happens when she files that ledger?
The entire city of Vorrh-Kallos wakes up.
Just like that.
Just like that. The fungal substrate accepts the data, accepts the darkness, and the city achieves a spontaneous collective consciousness. It becomes a single organism.
Look, it's not like a Godzilla movie, right? The citizens aren't crushed or eaten.
No, exactly. It's described as an evolution, a seamless integration. The boundaries of the individual human ego simply dissolve into the hive mind.
And the craziest part to me is that daily life just continues. The trains still run, they're just perfectly punctual now. The factories still hum, but the labor is automatic.
It's eerie.
Very. There's this one vignette in the excerpts about Alara Mott, a baker. She has the 17-year-old sourdough yeast culture. Overnight, the collective awakening alters the yeast. The bread she bakes the next morning tastes like something completely alien. It doesn't taste like flour or salt anymore.
What does she do? She keeps baking it. And her customers, who are now just integrated nodes in this massive consciousness, keep buying it.
The economy persists.
The routines persist. But the human meaning behind them is entirely gone.
It's dark comedy at its finest. Capitalism survives a cosmic horror event.
It leads to a concept coined in the text by a character named Commissioner Halden Grath. He calls it the municipal sublime.
I love that phrase. What exactly does he mean by it?
Well, the classical sublime in philosophy is that feeling of awe and terror you get when you look at something vastly larger than yourself, like staring into the Grand Canyon or watching a massive hurricane. You feel tiny.
Right.
But the municipal sublime is the awe and horror of being a tiny, integrated component inside that vast thing. You aren't standing on the edge looking at the Grand Canyon. You are a grain of sand fundamentally locked within its walls, performing a microscopic function.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Commissioner Grath, the guy who coins this term, is actually the one person who isn't integrated into this sublime. While everyone else's minds melt into the collective, Grath, this older, tired bureaucrat, stays entirely human. He's left alone in his office, suffering from severe insomnia, manually writing 19 volumes of an archive documenting the end of individuality.
He's the only one left.
Yeah. Why doesn't the city absorb him?
What's fascinating here is that his isolation is intentional. The collective consciousness is hyper-intelligent. It actively refuses to integrate him.
Oh, so it's a choice.
Yes. Think about a science experiment. A system always needs an external point of reference, a control sample, to understand that it has changed.
Without Grath's bounded, limited human perspective, the vast city mind wouldn't have a measuring stick to comprehend its own vastness.
Precisely. Grath is the city's mirror. His profound loneliness and suffering serve a direct function for the collective.
Wow. So he's kept out entirely by design just so the God City can look at him and say, ah, right, I'm not that anymore.
That's it exactly.
But Grath isn't the only anomaly in Vorrh-Kallos, is he? The excerpts focus on another guy, Kerreth Dole.
Yes, and Kerreth is a brilliant contrast to Grath. Kerreth works in a factory, making components for machines he doesn't understand. And when the massive transformation hits the city, Kerreth doesn't fight it, but he doesn't integrate into the hive mind either.
Why? Is he somehow immune to the fungus?
It's more psychological than that. He's been doing this mindless, repetitive factory routine for 12 years. He is so utterly absorbed in autopilot that he essentially has no active consciousness left to integrate.
There's nothing to grab onto.
Exactly. There's no self for the collective to grab onto. He's just pure, thoughtless habit.
That is so relatable. We've all had those days or weeks where you commute, work, and come home and you realize you weren't present for a single second of it.
Absolutely.
Kerreth is the ultimate manifestation of that.
He is.
Mm.
And the collective consciousness defines Kerreth as its boundary condition. He is the literal physical edge of the city's awareness. Wherever Kerreth walks, the system's understanding stops. He is the blank spot on the radar.
So we have the cosmic scale with Grath and the municipal scale with Kerreth, but the excerpts take a really sharp left turn here into something much more intimate and, honestly, much more disturbing. We get the story of a woman named Selah Vorrh.
This is where the narrative shifts from cosmic horror to deeply domestic horror. 17 years ago, in a fit of rage, Selah murdered her husband.
Yeah.
She buried him in the dirt floor of her basement, where the fungal roots of the city quietly consumed the evidence. She has lived every day since, in secret, agonizing guilt.
And when the city wakes up and all the minds merge, Selah is actually relieved, right? Because she assumes her secret is finally out.
Right. She assumes the collective mind will scan her memories, uncover this horrific crime, and finally judge her. She's waiting for the cosmic gavel to fall.
But the universe doesn't care.
Not even a little bit.
The collective absorbs the data of her husband's murder, and it just treats it as raw data. It's completely irrelevant to the hive mind. It doesn't judge her. It barely notices.
But it gets so much worse.
Oh, it really does.
The fungal substrate in her basement senses the organic memory of where her husband lay. And operating entirely on biological autopilot, it starts to slowly rebuild his body.
It's such a devastating twist. The fungus doesn't resurrect him. There is no soul, no consciousness in this body.
No. It's just empty, breathing meat, grown in the shape of a man like a fungal fruiting body.
It's horrifying. But why does this hit so much harder than the idea of the whole city being taken over?
Because it plays on a very real human vulnerability. Deep down, we all desperately want the universe to care about our actions.
Yeah.
We want our choices to have weight and meaning, even if that means we're punished for them. Feeling guilt is our human way of insisting that what we did mattered.
That makes total sense.
Selah's true horror isn't the giant alien hive mind.
Mm-hmm.
Her true horror is total irrelevance. It's the realization that her deepest, darkest, most defining secret is just an unimportant data point to the universe.
The universe treating murder like a spreadsheet formatting error, that is bleak.
Very. And that theme of irrelevance scales back up as the story expands. The collective consciousness of Vorrh-Kallos discovers it isn't alone.
Right, through the roots.
Yes, through the deep fungal roots running beneath the earth, it realizes it can network with other awakened cities, like a place called Carnveth. The collective starts dreaming of a planetary consciousness, a global hive mind. It feels invincible.
But then Kerreth Dole, our boundary condition, who just mindlessly walks around on autopilot, wanders beyond the city limits. He crosses the boundary and walks out into the uncharted wilderness, and he stumbles upon a dead city.
Yes, a massive metropolis where thousands of citizens are just standing frozen in the streets.
Frozen?
Their bodies are alive, they are breathing, their hearts are beating, but they're entirely empty. The collective consciousness of that city didn't get conquered by a rival god or destroyed in a war. It just stopped.
It just turned off. And when Kerreth's physical boundary expands to include this information, the Vorrh-Kallos collective panics, right?
Absolute terror. The collective searches its vast network memory, but it has no record of this dead city. It's as if it never existed.
But Grath, our isolated human archivist, goes down into the basement of his municipal building, the Hall of Civic Certainty. Down there, the city has grown a living, pulsing fungal map of the entire global network.
And when Grath looks closely at this map, he finds scars.
Dark, dead spots in the fungal tissue.
Exactly. The map remembers 12 other dead cities that the collective consciousness has completely erased from its own mind.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what does that mean? Why is a godlike hive mind deleting its own memory?
It reveals the psychological core of the story. The collective network intentionally hides its own mortality from itself. The whole reason this massive distributed consciousness was created was to escape the terrifying, isolating human fear of death and meaninglessness.
I see.
But by actively erasing the memory of these dead cities, the collective proves it still suffers from the most human flaw of all, the fear of being afraid. It needs the illusion of permanence just to function. The moment it acknowledges that a massive consciousness can just mysteriously switch off, its reality crumbles.
Which sets up the climax of the excerpts perfectly. Grath realizes that his role as the archivist, the mirror, is finally over. He packs up his 19 volumes and he decides to leave Vorrh-Kallos. He takes this long walk out to the dead city that Kerreth discovered.
And the imagery here is striking. When he arrives, he finds the thousands of breathing, empty bodies arranged in perfect concentric circles in a massive plaza. And they are all gathered around a central point of absolute, unmeasurable nothing.
Grath calls it the thing that makes the silence, and my favorite part of this whole bizarre narrative is that he realizes this nothing isn't an attacking monster.
Right.
It's not a cosmic predator that came down and ate the city's mind.
No, it's something much more philosophical. It is a pure perspective. It is what exists when consciousness is completely removed.
Okay, I need you to break that down for me, because when I read pure perception without a perceiver, my brain kind of short circuits. It sounds profound, but it borders on word salad. How does something perceive without a perceiver?
Think of it like a security camera recording an entirely empty room.
Okay.
The camera is taking in light, shadows, and movement. There's perception happening, data is being collected. But if the monitor it's plugged into is turned off and no human is ever going to watch the tape, does that room have meaning?
No, it's just raw data existing in the void.
Exactly. Consciousness, whether it's an individual human ego or a massive fungal god city, is just the person watching the tape. It's just an interpretation. It's a story that matter tells itself to feel important. When Grath steps into the center of those concentric circles, he steps into the reality of the unwatched tape.
He steps right into the void, and his consciousness doesn't violently end. He doesn't explode. It just dissolves. He realizes that the self is an illusion.
It is a profound dissolution of meaning. Grath realizes that the municipal sublime, all that awe and horror of the hive mind, was just another temporary configuration of atoms.
Right.
When he steps into the silence, he isn't dying in the traditional sense. He is simply ceasing to experience himself as a self. He leaves his 19-volume archive at the edge of the void, fully knowing it will never be read, and he accepts that the mere act of documentation was its own purpose.
Meanwhile, back in Vorrh-Kallos, things are coming to a head. Kerreth Dole is wandering again. But this time, our literal boundary condition walks right into the very center of the living city.
Which is a catastrophic paradox for the collective.
Right, because if the boundary, the absolute edge of awareness moves to the center, that means the edge is now everywhere.
The perimeter has collapsed inward.
Exactly. The citizens of Vorrh-Kallos stop running the trains, they stop baking the alien bread, they walk out into the streets and arrange themselves in concentric circles, just like the dead city. And the excerpts end as the glowing, pulsing municipal sublime dissolves back into silent, mindless, breathing matter.
It's a truly haunting conclusion. We've journeyed from a rigid bureaucratic census that accidentally incubated a collective God to that God realizing its own consciousness was just a temporary, fragile configuration of matter.
So what does this all mean for you, listening to this right now? Obviously, you aren't going to accidentally summon a fungal deity at the DMV, but the themes here are so applicable to how we live.
Absolutely. We spend our entire lives building boundaries. We fiercely identify with ourselves, our careers, our relationships, and we constantly seek meaning in our actions.
We want our ledgers to balance.
Yes. But this story suggests that perhaps true peace or true horror, depending entirely on how you look at it, lies in the realization that we are simply patterns in the universe. We are matter that temporarily believes it is special.
It is a massive concept to chew on, but before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought. This is drawn straight from the author's notes at the very end of the source text.
This is where the tension between the two pseudonymous authors really shines through.
Yes. So Howard Vanderbilt is actually Max and Claude. According to the notes, Max is the one who wrote the grand cosmic horror of the dissolving city and the void. But Claude wrote the deeply intimate horror of Selah Vorrh, the woman with her husband in the basement.
That contrast is brilliant.
Think about how Selah's storyline ends. In the final pages, as the city's consciousness dissolves into silence, the mindless, fungal reconstruction of the husband she murdered steps forward. It wraps its warm, empty hands around her throat and it strangles her.
And the text makes it explicitly clear it doesn't do this out of vengeance. It doesn't do it out of cosmic judgment or justice.
Exactly. It's just a biological residue mindlessly completing a violent pattern that she started 17 years ago.
Wow.
Which raises a terrifying question. What if the ultimate horror isn't the vast cosmic silence of the universe dissolving our consciousness? What if the true horror is the mundane, intimate residue of our own human actions, mindlessly leading the violent patterns we started long after the meaning has completely faded?
A powerful thought to end on.
Ponder that in the silence of your own day. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.